Hey, what's up? This is Twisted Mind, and you're watching the First Look series, an overview of the changes made to your class going into the Mists of Pandaria. Rogues of all specs will now bring the raid-wide buff Swiftblade's Cunning, which increases the melee and ranged attack speed. Rogues will also notice a change to their poisons. You can't carry them around in your bags anymore, and you can pick between one lethal poison and one non-lethal poison, and it applies both of these poisons to each of your weapons. The non-lethal poison is there to apply utility, and you can also pick up some more non-lethals from your talents, and the lethal poisons are there to provide the damage. And almost all sims are saying deadly poison is the one that you want for PvE, and for PvP you want wound poison for your lethal's choice. These poisons are not proc per minute anymore either, which means that the faster your weapon is, the more poison damage you're going to be doing. Also notice that your shiv got a workaround with these poisons, and now it applies an extra bonus effect depending on which poison you have equipped. Rogues can also bring the weakened armor buff for your raid. You can glyph for this exposed armor to apply 3 stacks on one application, and it also now gives combo points and has a reduced energy cost, but it's still penalizing to use in your rotation, so try to get someone else in your raid to apply that debuff. And also notice that your dagger speeds have now been normalized. All daggers will always be 1.8 seconds, so no need for confusion anymore for what to equip with your main and offhand. For your survivability, Feint can now be spammed at any time, although you can't reduce its energy cost, and you can glyph for it to have a longer duration. Your Cloak of Shadows is now up to 2 minutes, and that's unchangeable. And you can now dodge ranged attacks, so your evasion now has a greater value against hunters. There's some stuff going on in stealth now. You have a group party cooldown called Shroud of Concealment. Essentially this creates an area that your whole party can hide under, and is proving to be almost mandatory in the challenge modes. So expect a few more tweaks before this goes live. Also, you now have a button called Shadow Walk. It's been proven and simmed out that this increases your stealth effective level by 4 levels. So this adds new depth to rogue PvP versus rogue PvP, and it also means you can sneak into higher area levels that you shouldn't be sneaking into. There's also a few change-ups to your AoE rotation. For one, your Fan of Knives now gives a combo point depending on what target you're pointed at. And there's also a new finisher in town. Crimson Tempest is a AoE bleed effect that scales depending on how many combo points you have up on your given target. So your new rotation is now spam Fan of Knives to 5, and then Crimson Tempest whirl round. And your kick is now on a 15-second cooldown to match the other melee interrupts. When you learn Assassination, the combo point generators and the combo point finishers change up around, so there's no confusion as to which ones you should be using in your rotation. Vendetta got a buff, it's now up to 30%. And your Mutilate remains your general combo point builder. Seal Fate's still in the game, so you have to react to those random combo points from crits. And this new Dispatch button is essentially the replacement for Backstab in your Execute rotation. However, there is now a proc in the game called Blindside, and when you get this proc, you're allowed to use Dispatch over Execute range. You want to use it immediately. Envenom is still your primary finishing move. Slice and Dice is still in the game, and Envenom still refreshes the full duration of Slice and Dice, so you shouldn't have to apply Slice and Dice more than once. Envenom still gives that proc to increase poison application. Rupture is still something you want to have 100% uptime on, thanks to this Venomous Wounds talent, but read the Venomous Wounds talent tooltip. It no longer stacks with your Garrot anymore, which means also, in addition to having no more overkill, there's no reason to re-stealth at any time in combat as Assassination, or it'll lose you DPS. It also means that you can apply Slice and Dice first in your opener, because you can Garrot, Slice and Dice, and then apply Rupture, because really the only reason that you need to have either of these bleeds up is for this Venomous Wounds and its energy gains. And also, regardless of what you do, you're going to want to take the Anticipation talent at level 90 in order to make full use of your Seal Fate combo points and not waste them. This doesn't always apply in PvP though. Other than that, your rotation is the exact same as it was all the way through Cata. It has some new flavor with these Blindside procs, but otherwise it should feel very familiar. And it's also been a slightly buffed because you now have to have 1.8 speed daggers. Your mastery is still poison damage, and it's still your top stat after you reach your hit and expertise caps. Speaking of hit and expertise, you'll notice a few changes to your hit and expertise tabs and how they interact with all of your abilities. For one, expertise doesn't have that weird number system where you reach certain plateaus at a number up to 26. It's just a percentage. And hit Same way, it's still the same yellow damage reaches first and then the white damage hit is much later. However, this is extra cool with poisons because your poisons now, since they are still spell hit, they now add both your expertise and your hit from your melee tab to effectively find that spell hit number. So you can spell cap hit if you have your expertise and your hit caps reached. And also, your poisons now deal double damage on crits. When you learn combat, your base abilities of Sinister Strike and Eviscerate don't change. And your mastery and combat potency are still in the game, so there's been a lot of decision making still being theory crafted out to see if it's worth it to equip a slow hander or a dagger, because poison damage is now not proc per minute. But early sims for combat show that because your Sinister Strike and your new Revealing Strike are both weapon damage, you still always want to have a slow main hand if possible. And also check out what happened to Revealing Strike. It's now kind of a buff or debuff that you want to keep up on the target instead of something that you situationally use in your rotation. You just want to have 100% uptime on that. So that's a nice quality of life. Eviscerate's still your primary finisher, and now Rupture, there's no more bleed debuffs or situationalness to using it, so you pretty much always want to have Rupture rolling at 5 combo points on a target. And you still want to maintain that 100% slice and dice uptime. Blade Flurry is still that best cleave ability that it always was, however you can't glyph for it to reduce the energy penalty in any way, so it'll always be fixed at this energy penalty. And at 5 or 6 more mobs you just want to start doing your Fan of Knives spam. There's a few glyphs I'd recommend for your cooldowns. For one, on Adrenaline Rush, you want to glyph for that because energy capping, I can tell already, is going to haste cap at a plateau like it did during this expansion. And since we still have that 1 second global cooldown, glyphing it now makes us the fastest class spam in the game. So if you were an ADD junkie with a short attention span, this is the spec for you. Also, remember how Killing Spree always used to get us killed? I would highly recommend getting the minor glyph of Killing Spree that returns you to your original spot after you finish your Killing Spree. And much like Assassination, combat for the most part remains the exact same rotation as it was in Cataclysm, with the same nuances. This includes Bandit's Guile. You still have that as a passive, as you can see here with my Deep Insight. So your level 90 talent choice might get a little bit tricky. If there's anything with rapid target switching, you can now grab that unlimited cooldown on Redirect. However, on your Revealing Strike, there is still the potential to get an extra combo point per Sinister Strike, so you now kind of always want to be doing Eviscerates at 5 combo points, and it's even more mandatory to take Anticipation, so it'll depend on the fight which talent choice you choose. When you spec into Subtlety, your Sinister Strike becomes Hemorrhage, so there's really no confusion as to which abilities to be using when you're in this spec. You still get Shadow Dance as your primary DPS cooldown, but I'll get to that in a second. Hemorrhage and the glyph of Hemorrhage from the previous expansion have just been baked into the ability, so this is something you want to apply once every 24 seconds. And if it runs its full duration, will be more damage per energy, but that means don't reapply it if the target's going to die in under 24 seconds. And Backstab is your primary combo point generator. Note that Hemorrhage isn't included in the Sanguinary Bane, which is the bleed that you have to keep up in order to ensure you're doing max damage. It's only applied by your finishers and openers bleeds. For your finishers, you still want to try to maintain that 100% uptime with your Slice and Dice, and also note that your Slice and Dice does still benefit from your mastery like it did in the previous expansion, so you can extend your duration of it with that mastery. And also take notice that your Energetic Recovery talent, which used to be a part of Recuperate, is now a part of Slice and Dice, which means that your Recuperate has no real business being in your DPS rotation for sub anymore. It still has its PvP uses, of course. Your other finisher you want to have 100% uptime on is a 5 combo point Rupture, and it's really critical in this spec for the extra bleed damage, or the damage done while targets are bleeding. And then if you don't have any of those to reapply, your basic finisher is Eviscerate. Also note that the Sanguinary Vein effect doesn't stack when you have both Rupture and Garrote on a target, so you want to open with your Garrote, but then you never want to try to use Garrote ever again for the rest of the duration of the fight. Because of the reduced energy cost in Shadow Dance, Ambush is the only combo point generator you should be using when you're in a Shadow Dance, apart from your one pre-med, and you want to always try to go into a Shadow Dance with a full Slice and Dice and a full Rupture rolling so you don't have to refresh either. Because the Find Weakness ability is still in the game when you exit your stealth, and you still have the increased damage when you exit stealth, you are pretty much forced to take Premeditation as a sub-rogue for DPS anyway. Shadow Stab no longer increases ambush damage, so it's pre-med or go home. Also, your Shadow Focus talent in the top tier doesn't actually work in a Shadow Dance, so you have to take Night Stalker to maximize your DPS. Honor Among Thieves is also still in the game. It doesn't give a crit buff for your raid, but it still does that random combo point generation, so I would also strongly encourage you to take the almost mandatory Anticipation talent at level 90, so you don't accidentally cap on combo points. And if you saw the combination of Deadly Throw and Shuriken Toss in your talent tree and thought, "Aw, sweet, I can be a ranged rogue," they still have to do some number tuning, I think, with these talents, because currently it's such a minimal, terrible DPS that there isn't really going to be any foreseeable fight in the near future where the extra range DPS from these two abilities is going to gain over Anticipation. Blizzard did state that they don't want mandatory talents, so these are all subject to change. At level 87 we'll get Shadow Blades for a burst of combo points. If you like this vid or others on my site, you can help support me by liking, favoriting, subscribing, and even commenting. I'll try to respond best I can. And thanks for all the support, guys. I really do appreciate it.